Hello and a very good day to all of you. A warm welcome to everyone to our second Melta Negeri Sembilan chapter live webinar. Our chapter had just banded together and we hope that these webinars will pave the way to more collaborations and informative discussion for the benefit of English language educators across Negeri Sembilan and beyond. I'm Kirubashini Nadarajan from the Melta Negeri Sembilan chapter and I'll be your moderator for today. Now, before we begin today's webinar, please spare me a few minutes to make a few important announcements regarding our session. Today's webinar will be conducted in two parts. We shall begin with our Real Talk, Real Teachers webinar, followed by a question and answer session. For the question and answer session later, if you have any questions for the speaker, please type in your question in the comment section in either our YouTube or Facebook live video. This comment section is located at the bottom of your screen. So, if you have any questions or anything you'd like to share about our topic, do hit the comment button and type away. Before we start, here are some gentle reminders for you. Now, please use a stable internet connection for optimum viewing. Second, since this is a live video on YouTube and Facebook, viewers can post questions in the comment section. And last but not least, the question and answer session will be opened after the presentation session ends. Now, how to earn professional development hours in your SPL KPM? First, click on the link provided at the end of the webinar. Key in your IC number and wait. Your participation is registered and hours are included in your SPL KPM. So, ladies and gentlemen, to begin today's session, I would like to invite the Vice Chapter Leader for Melta Negeri Sembilan Chapter, Puan Yasmin Leong Puikuan binti Abdullah, to give her welcoming speech. Hello, Puan Yasmin.
Hi everyone, I'm Yasmin Leong, the Melta Negeri Sembilan Chapter Assistant Leader. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone on behalf of the Negeri Sembilan Chapter team. I think most of you know that our chapter was launched in December 2020. Although our chapter is still new, we want to contribute to the English language teaching and learning progress in Negeri Sembilan. Therefore, we hope that more teachers would join the activities hosted by our chapter. Please feel free to visit and follow our Facebook page to be updated on our chapter's activities. I hope the sharing session with our Nogori Sembilan champions will be a source of inspiration to all of you. Please enjoy the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Puan Yasmin, for the heartwarming welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Well, for those of you wondering what FINCO is all about, FINCO is actually the Financial Industry Collective Outreach, a collaboration initiative pioneered by all financial institutions in Malaysia with the support of Bank Negara Malaysia. FINCO's biggest goal is to provide underprivileged children and youth with the guidance and educational tools they need to achieve life goals. Well, to have a better understanding about FINCO, today with me I have Miss Claire Walker. Miss Claire Walker is the Chief Executive Officer of the Financial Industry Collective Outreach, providing strategic direction and governance of the organization. With over 25 years of experience in education and 22 of these in Malaysia, Claire is passionate about providing equal access to high-quality educational opportunities. Hello, Miss Claire. Good to have you with us today. Well, you are definitely the best person to enlighten us about FINCO. So, do tell us more about FINCO.
Good evening. My name's Claire Walker and I'm the CEO of the Financial Industry Collective Outreach. Firstly, thank you to the Negeri Sembilan chapter of Melta for inviting me to say a few words to all the dedicated teachers that are attending the event this evening. Firstly, a little background about our organisation. So FINCO is a collaboration between the whole financial industry in Malaysia and it's supported by Bank Negara Malaysia. We've been in operation since 2017 and our big goal is to provide children from B40 backgrounds with the guidance and educational tools to achieve their life aspirations. We work towards this goal through 4 pillars: English proficiency, life aspiration, financial literacy and disaster relief. Through FINCO Mentor, we're working with approximately 160 secondary schools to train and support school counsellors and their students to develop good career guidance systems and activities in their schools. We'll also be piloting a financial literacy challenge this year, and we're going to be working with our existing primary schools to combine financial literacy with social enterprise so that the students have the opportunity to take the financial literacy concepts that they learn and apply them to real life type situations. And then finally, through FINCO Reads, we're working with 160 schools in 6 states to train Standard 4 English teachers. And this year to set up interactive reading corners for students because they're spending so much more time in the classroom when schools are open, of course. So through these initiatives, we aim to support students in increasing their English proficiency, but particularly through the skill of reading. And finally, the HIP-FINCO Outstanding Teacher Award is a collaboration between FINCO and the Ministry of Education. And it's the first year, last year, that we ran this competition. We recognised that teachers and students were put in a really difficult position with the sudden closure of schools last March. But we also saw that there was really great initiative and innovation and commitment shown by teachers such as Puan Waizatul, Puan Rada and Encik Khairi, and our student winners, of course. And we really wanted to capture and recognise teachers such as these and their achievements. We thought it would be a good idea as well to share their approach, and we're going to be working on sharing their lessons more widely through our website. But in the meantime, it's really great to see Melta providing a platform such as this for the sharing of ideas. We all need to pull together to overcome the challenges that we're facing in education at this time. And that will help us to become more resilient because we know that the future is going to be a little bit shaky, I think, for a while now. So we're going to be running another competition later this year. There are lots more good stories out there, I know, but probably around August, we'll be updating you on the theme and the entry process for the 2021 competition. So many thanks again to Melta and really sincere congratulations to our competition winners, but also to all of the teachers out there who have kept learning going over this past year. Wishing you all a safe and happy 2021. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Claire Walker. It was indeed an eye-opener for most of us about FINCO. I'm guessing teachers would be more alert and would love to explore on the programs organized by FINCO in the near future. It was great having you with us. Thanks again for joining. Ladies and gentlemen, in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, the new norm of restrictions, quarantine, and social distancing have altered our usual face-to-face activities. We have since dived into uncharted waters of online remote learning. Teachers across the nation are now creatively adapting to the new educational norm of remote online teaching. We have heard many stories of how Malaysian teachers have walked the extra mile to adapt and ensure continuous quality of education for their pupils. From blended learning to technology-rich lessons, teachers now have to be innovative in circumventing the challenges to our new educational norm. The title of today's webinar is Real Talk, Real Teachers, Our Nogori Champions. Such a catchy title, and I can't wait to hear more about it. Well, we are very fortunate to have with us this evening not one, but 3 special guest speakers who are the winners of HIP-FINCO Outstanding Teacher Award 2020. Our first speaker is Ms. Maizatul Sarah Yusof, an English language teacher from SK Desa Cempaka Nilai and the first runner-up for the medium high-tech lesson. Ms. Rauda is our second speaker for today. She is an English language teacher from SK Bukit Rokan Utara, Tampin, and is the first prize winner for the low-tech lesson. And our third speaker is none other than Mr. Khairi Fakri, an English language teacher from SK Amar Penghulu, Jelebu. He is the first prize winner for the HIP-FINCO Award. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our speakers, Sarah, Rauda, and Khairi. Good evening to all of you and congratulations again. I'm definitely happy and honored to have all of you here today. Thank you very much for spending and sparing your time with us today.
Hi, Kiru.
Hello,
Thanks for
Kiru.
having us.
Hi, guys.
Nice to be here.
Well, without further ado, we shall move straight on to our session, as I'm sure everyone is very eager to hear so much from you on the topic today. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Ready as I will ever
All
be.
right, so let's bring it on. Well, to begin with, how did you come across or find out about this competition in the first place?
Okay, I think I'll answer that being the oldest. So I think I speak for myself, Rauda, and Kyrie, coming from the same state, even Kiru. We're in
Yes.
the same Telegram group as our state language English officers. So we're very fortunate to have them in the same group, and they are always sharing about these types of competitions for teachers and for teachers to help with their students. So I think if teachers here are looking for competitions like this, they could certainly reach out to their state and district officers. It also came out in my school Telegram feed, which I think school administrators are more than ready to share and encourage teachers to participate. Don't overrule the teacher networking that we have. I'm sure that we have colleagues and peers that are willing to share about these types of competitions.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and I would definitely agree with you. So we are indeed very fortunate to have officers who are very supportive and encouraging over the teachers here. And of course, it is really important to stay connected and to work together as well.
Yeah.
So to keep the networking going among all the teachers. So, and teachers would be aware of all the latest programs or competitions that are actually being organized. So, thank you so much again, Sarah, for sharing your view again. Well, next, have any of you worked along with FINCO before this on any program or competition? Well, as for me, this was something new, and I actually got some insights about FINCO after hearing it from Miss Claire herself.
I see. Okay, I think I'll take that question.
All right.
Uh, Actually, just like all of you, I've never heard of Finco before. But then, just one morning on March last year, we got a calling letter by Finco asking us to go for trainings, professional development training with Finco and LipAct. And from then on, we began to go to their trainings, and then they also proposed to do an activity fair with the students. But then, due to the social distancing restrictions, they changed it into reading corner for the students. So yeah, apparently we became one of the HIP-FINCO schools.
Oh, that's nice, Kyrie, and definitely a great effort coming out from FINCO to actually reach out to the rural schools as well. So, not to forget, teachers and students also actually had equal involvement in this program. So, a very good exposure to everyone indeed. Thank you so much, Kyrie, again for sharing your view on this. Now, coming to the most interesting part, what were the challenges faced learning in the new norm? And did you come up with an interesting lesson for your students? And what do you think was interesting about your lesson that actually caught your students' attention? So, Ms. Ra, would you like to share your view on this?
Hello, Kiru. Assalamualaikum,
Hi, Rauda.
everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Melta Negeri Sembilan chapter for having me today. It's such a great honor to share the same room with the three actually inspiring colleagues, Sarah, Kyrie, and you as well, Hiro, who look stunning and charmed as always. I'm
Thank you
Rauda.
so much.
I'm Rauda, an English teacher teaching in SK Bukit Rokan Utara, Samping Negeri Sembilan. It has been 4 years in service. Alhamdulillah, thanks to the God for helping me through for the past 4 years. Hence, I would like to clarify that this is not the only best practice which is applicable to every teachers out there. Instead, I reckon that every teachers had gear up their effort and creativity to maintain the high standard of teaching and learning during these trying times. I believe that there are no size fits all. Yeah, a little background about the school. I named my Finco submission as a journey of self-reflection because
Mhm.
indeed this is an assemble from every pieces that I've picked along the way, thanks to the teachers that I've met virtually, be it on the social media or the teachers that I've met during all the courses that I've attended before. This is what I've collected, and this is what it looks like. Um,
Okay.
so basically about the school,
Mm-hmm.
we come from a rural school, which it is located in Felda, Bukit Rokan Utara, which if you're about to drive from Seremban town to here, it will take around 2 hours to arrive.
Oh, that's quite a
Um,
distance.
yeah, that's quite a distance actually, but it is reachable. And you are invited to join us here, by the way.
Thank you so much,
So,
Rhoda. I will definitely come over.
in our school, we have 200 students, more or less, teachers around 20, and most of our students come from low to middle socioeconomic status. Parents are doing odd jobs, and few of them are in government and private sector. So that is our rural setting. Um, Back to the question, what are the challenges that I faced during the first MCO? So this was in April 2020, which we were having our weekend break, and suddenly our Prime
Mm.
Minister announced that there going to be school closure. So me myself, I was so anxious and blurred on what to do for the next lesson because we didn't prepare, and thankfully I actively participated for my HIP program in school. This the only person that I come to think was the parents, who actually the person that I could reach to bring to bridge the gap between me and my students. I believe other than the parents who is the connector at the moment, we also
Mhm.
have to consider what are the materials that we need to develop, whether it suits the students' need, and also what are the most accessible medium that can link between me and my students. Because at that time, the stakeholder is our students. So we need to find someone who can help me to reach and to keep the lesson going regardless of what are the circumstances that we are facing.
True.
So,
Very true.
very true. So, the first thing that I include for my lesson is to have primary slide. Thanks to Miss Nazira, an educational rock star that I would call her, she shared this on her Facebook, which she encouraged teachers to include the objective for every lesson. Only then our students would know what teachers' expectation on them. So they are able to work within their resources and
Mhm.
capacity, so everyone can move towards one objective. Thanks, Miss Nazira.
Okay.
Maybe Kiru, perhaps after this you can check her page. She keeps sharing a lot of interesting, appealing materials, which most of it is adaptable for our classroom setting. Even for myself, she comes from urban school, but all her
Mhm.
materials are adaptable for my rural setting.
So it's feasible. So well, thank you so much for that extra tip, Rauda. We'll
Yeah,
definitely check out her Facebook page.
yeah, we should. So, other than the primary slide, I always put a lot of consideration what are the accessible resources. For the lesson, particularly, I assign my students to have a creative writing, which they have to describe a person, and
Hmm.
in their creative writing, they need to include facial expression. For this
Nice.
lesson particularly, I already aware that they are well equipped with the resources that they can refer. So this sheet I got it from Mr. T. Kok Siang. Thank you, Mr. T. My Linux officer back in Sampin. I collected this from one of the Linux courses that I've attended. So I've been using this material since then. So my students already familiar on sentence construction, what are vocabulary that they have to include in their writing. This sheet we always use for our daily writing activity. So during the MCO, Kiro, they can't reach me physically. So I'm sending my vibe through equipping everyone with whatever resources. Besides students' book, they need to be equipped with other resources so they have a sense of motivation to accomplish the task. Yeah.
Nice.
Next, let's talk about practicality during the MCO. My savior, the knight in shining armor, was WhatsApp medium.
Yeah. WhatsApp
Definitely,
was
it was it was my life savior because I believe that in every point, WhatsApp was informed, at least
Mhm.
because that is like our main medium of communication. Rather
Correct.
than
I
to
would
use,
definitely agree with you. Mhm.
yeah, rather than to use like Telegram, I do agree, to shift from WhatsApp to Telegram since Telegram has more functions, but it is something, inconvenient for the parents to download one because you imagine, Kiro, they subscribe to the data internet like they have to pay for 5 ringgit and they will get 1 gig of data. And it is something worrying if they do
Mhm.
not know how to manage Telegram. So let's be real, just use WhatsApp as long as I can reach everyone. So WhatsApp has been my medium of instruction, medium of communication. Through WhatsApp, I shared the materials and they shared their feedback. I prefer to use PowerPoint because I can edit the contrast. I can write down all the comments, all the constructive comments. I can, insert a lot of appealing and striking stickers just to encourage them so everyone can
Mhm.
keep going. I prefer PowerPoint. So later I save it in JPEG form and I send it back to the parents. The parents will deliver the message to the students, and it has been like back and forth process. It sounds so tedious actually, but it is something uh satisfying because I got to sleep soundly at night knowing that I've done my best during the day. Yeah.
Well, you definitely got to do something which works best for you, right? So
Yeah,
if
for
that works
best for
best for
me
you,
and the
then
students.
Mhm.
Next, other than the homeroom WhatsApp group, we also have English chit chat room. This is actually an initiative by the students where they created this group and they added everyone who possessed point and
Mhm.
later they added me. So I fully utilized this chance, to share the feedback. This group actually served me a ripple effect. Just like when
Mhm.
I correct one boy, so the other will see and read what I'm commenting, and somehow
So
they feel that
they learn from their friend's mistake as well, in a way, right?
yes, it's like killing two birds with one stone. So rather than getting more red marks from teacher, I'm gonna correct it first. Um, Unlike the two group, which the homeroom WhatsApp and one-to-one chat with their parents, I insisted to use fully English with them in this group, particularly because that's how we run our class in daily basis.
Mhm.
Regardless whatever medium that we are communicating, I insisted to use fully English with them so they know that teacher is being teacher. Teacher is still queening wherever she is. I love the word queening, because all this while you got to listen to me because yeah, I'm gonna touch on that issue after this.
Mhm.
So just now I mentioned about queening. Uh, this survey was conducted during MCO, which I asked these parents to recognize their perception, how they feel about remote learning, whether they are aware that they are being the second facilitator and I was the only knowledge disseminator because
Mhm.
during MCO I cannot reach them physically. So what I can do is to educate the parents that you need to substitute me. You got to replace me to monitor your students to monitor the kids at home because I can't do that at the moment. So as a result, I managed uh, to say that 60% believe that they are actually the facilitator, which I'm so grateful and thankful for that. However, as you can see, there are 40% that believe the students manage to do the task by themselves. Yes, indeed,
Right.
because we don't have streaming anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So this 40% actually come from the high achiever, which
Okay.
whom
So that
actually
explains the 40%. Mm-hmm.
yes, they actually can do the task by themselves most of the time, even at home, which is something reassuring for me. All right. Other than me conducting the survey, one of their homeroom teacher also took an initiative to conduct a survey for the parents to see how they perceive teachers' homework distribution. You know, sometimes we tend to become so full of ourselves. Uh, we don't care about others, but having this just like my check and balance, whether I'm on the track, on the right track.
Right.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So thank you to these homeroom teachers. I really appreciate this. Next, to have a positive note to send home.
Yeah, those are
I
very cute ones.
it is actually. I love this idea. Thank you to Miss Yvonne, a teacher in Kundasang Ranau. She shared on her Facebook. So I've been utilizing this idea in my classroom. You can get these materials from Teacher Pay and tpthollywood.com and also
Mm-hmm.
a cupcake for a teacher. Just make sure to include the magic word free so you are
Free,
free.
yes.
Yes. We love free
So
stuff.
I hope everyone is taking down this extra tip from you.
So you can just download it freely. There are
Right.
abundant of resources in those websites. So what I did with this positive note, I just wrote down or jotted down whatever did that did accomplish on that day. For example,
Mhm.
one girl lent her pencil color to friends. So I just wrote down, you did a good job today. Because I believe that we have the responsibility not to only disseminate English content, but also to help the students to grow as a better person because English is taught daily on daily basis. So we should just grab this opportunity to instill moral values. So I hope by the end of the school year, they learn something besides the English content itself. Plus, fine. I love this idea as well, which I generate a certificate for the
Mm-hmm.
parent or the guardians. Just make sure to include the mom and dad because I'm so thankful and grateful towards them who has been a great help for me during the MCO. Without them, I cannot reach my student. I cannot get much as feedback because kids love ghosting. So that's how I convey my appreciation towards parents out there. Yeah. So briefly, I
Mm-hmm.
strongly agree to the idea that we have to include parents, teachers, the other subject teachers, also my school administrators, just to keep the lesson running smoothly, regardless of what circumstances we are facing. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That was definitely very interesting and great idea from you, Miss Rauda. What was interesting actually was how you looked at it as a reflection rather than a competition actually. And in a way, all of us are actually going through a learning process in this new norm. So each and every one of us are learning something new and coming up with those lessons for our children as well. So
Yeah.
from what you mentioned was it was very obvious that whatever that you explained earlier that it could be seen that you had so much of effort and you put in a lot of effort to actually know about your students and then from there uh, carry out your lessons for them. And you were very detailed. And what was very nice, very sweet of you was you appreciate each and every one of them. And I think that would have been a great motivation for your students as well to be engaged in your lessons as well. So during this crisis moment, very important actually to get in touch with parents, and which was a great thing done by you as well, so that the lesson is actually taking place. So thank you so much again, Ms. Rauda, sharing your view on this. Now, what would be your take on this, Ms. Sarah?
Hi, Kiru.
Hi, Sarah.
Okay, no pressure going after Rauda. She is so calm and collected. So here comes the storm. Okay, fair warning. First of all, I'd like to thank Malta Negeri Sembilan chapter for inviting me to share just a little bit on our mini milestone compared to what other teachers have done out there. So basically, let me give you the context of my school. We are a pretty large school. We have 1,300 pupils located in the heart of Nilai. We have around 80 plus teachers, and these students come from a diverse socioeconomic background. And like Rauda, our school also conducted surveys with parents and teachers, asking them about which medium was best to use during home-based learning, and what do you think about the amount of work given by each teacher, also their feelings throughout school closures. And we are so thankful to have 2 school counselors to be helping out to conduct these surveys and not us doing it ourselves. So my lesson specifically was tailored for Dahlia. So this is my class, one of 3 classes that I teach. So like any other teacher, if we have 3 classes, we would have to reach out differently to these 3 groups of pupils. So again, let me provide the context for Dahlia. We have around 35 pupils in this class, and it's inclusive. So we have 1 pupil who has autism. It's also streamed, which is interesting. Out of 35 classes in my school, we have around only 3 classes that are streamed because of the dual language program. So this particular class is involved in dual language program. Yeah. So this is our year 4 class. And among the students in this class, most of them come from a medium to high socioeconomic background, as opposed to Rauda. So most of them don't have a problem with getting their hands on a gadget. However, there were students who had limitations, like they had to rely on their parents' gadgets, or they had to share gadgets among siblings. And I'll talk a little bit about this later. But when I first conducted lessons in the school closures, I thought that Google Meet was quite straightforward. And to me, it was kind of like the next best thing after physical contact, like being face to face. I could actually see their faces virtually. Yeah, even though I can't see them, touch them, hug them like I always do. So again, it was quite straightforward, and the students were able to use this medium with me for my lesson delivery. And when talking about getting students to join classes, we want to make sure that they have resources, and we want to use resources that are already available to the pupils, not only the teachers. So you have to remember that before MCO, we know that they have their students' book. And in my school, we already told them to buy the workbook before the MCO, so they would already be using this in their normal classroom. And
so they were already well equipped with their resources, actually.
Yeah, because you have to remember that they're at home, so you can't really provide materials. Like maybe for remote areas, you would have to reach out to them. But maybe in city areas, like for instance, my school is on the border of Negeri Sembilan and Selangor. So for me to reach out to maybe half of my students, I would have to cross the border, which might cause, a bit more trouble. So what you want to do is work with what they already have. Okay, and in our Google Meet sessions, I would also use supplementary materials like audio and visual aids that would come from the CD that comes along with the teacher's book. But if we can't get to the CD, we could also use these audios and videos shared on YouTube, which right now I want to take the opportunity to thank all the teachers who have been producing
Sharing,
content.
right?
Yes, and sharing, producing content, sharing what they learn on YouTube for other teachers to use with their classroom. So I'm really happy, and I want you to know that whatever you're doing, keep doing it because you're helping every one of us. Okay,
It's like a blessing
so
in disguise, actually.
yeah. So moving on, when we talk about participation in the classroom itself, so for me, it would be through Google Meet. How do you get students to participate? You have to remember this is from the early phases of MCO. So what I did was use techniques that I would use normally in schools. That would be like the mini whiteboard, for instance. So when I was in our Google Meet session, what I would do is when I'm doing comprehension, I would get the students to write down their answers. This is for maybe short subjective questions. So I get them to write their answers and display their answers as if they would in class, but now it would be through their cameras. Uh, Again, there are constraints to this technique. For instance, if you look at the second picture, the boy is actually trying to lift up a large size whiteboard. And I feel
He
so
was
sorry
literally
for him.
using a large
Yeah, a
size
really
whiteboard for
large
his class.
whiteboard. Yeah. So again, we have to remember that they don't have the materials that they would get in schools. Like,
Hmm.
for instance, if some of my students didn't have one, I would have extra whiteboards and I would have extra markers for them. So some of them had to work with what they have, and then they would resort to pencil and paper, for instance. I was lucky that
Limitation of
one.
resources as well in this point of view, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
but throughout this experience of school closures and not being able to learn in schools, I was lucky to get tutorials from my colleagues. So one of my colleagues, Cikgu Suhaini, actually shared on whiteboard.fi, which is actually a website. It's kind of like the mini whiteboard. So on the website, you would be able to share a class code. And in
Hmm.
that page, you would see every student's whiteboard online, and then you could also display it on the Google Meet itself. So those are very important things to learn, that those small things help, sharing those mini professional development sessions we have with our colleagues. When talking
Okay.
about quick scans, I also do close-ended questions, maybe for set induction, or those simple close-ended questions, for instance, yes or no, true or false. And I really like the fact that we can use our hands, we can use what we have on our face, as opposed to traffic lights or maybe smiley face and frown faces. So it could be like true or false. It could be touch your nose, cover your ears. So these things actually help students turn on their cameras because they want to show that they're participating. And I really like conducting these activities during my Google Meet sessions.
So you get to know whether they are actually engaged in your lesson as well, right?
Yeah, kind of. And after the Google Meet sessions, what I would do is maybe work on an individual task. For this particular lesson, the complementary learning specifications was on speaking. So they would go on line. Oh, sorry, before that, let me talk about differentiation. So maybe in class, you would differentiate based on needs and abilities. But when conducting home-based learning, I noticed that we also have to differentiate based on accessibility. So
Okay.
like I said before, there were students who need to rely on their parents' gadgets, or had to share gadgets with their brother or sister, maybe in secondary school. So what you have to do after the Google Meet sessions is maybe provide most, if not everything, that we did in Google Meet, so that you ensure every student has equal privilege or equal accessibility to whatever we did in the live video conferencing. So here you would give the task, the materials we used, and maybe what I look for in the criteria I look for when submitting your individual task. And like Rauda, I think at that time everyone relied on WhatsApp. So
WhatsApp, yeah.
yeah, so we had our class group, and we also used Google Classroom. The hype at that time was getting our MOE emails. So yeah, some of the kids were really excited to get on to Google Classroom on
Google
their home
Classroom.
computers and laptops. Yeah. So when talking about setting individual tasks,
Mm-hmm.
what I do is I try not to limit their creativity. In terms of like everyone has directed work where they would get like same answer and questions, so you would mark it like you would a normal exercise book. So what I did was for this particular lesson was speaking. The students, this is on page 30 of the Get Smart Students book, by the way. So on this
Okay.
page, you would see at the end there's an extension where they go online, look for information on Tutankhamun, which they read about, and then they would present these facts to the class. So what I do is I try to give them a certain amount of freedom. Like I could say, you can use whatever app you want. You can do whatever you want in your video as long as the facts are presented clearly. And I just want 5 facts, and it has to be on the same person, obviously. But you would have to set limitations like how many minutes you want the kids to send their work on. And I find that this is a pro of doing home-based learning, because as you can see, they're not
Mm-hmm.
limited to that 1 hour we have in our physical classroom, right? So they
Yep,
would
yep.
have time, they would have time to actually research on Tutankhamun, find out the facts that they really think are worthy of sharing,
Mm-hmm.
uh, have time to prepare their materials and practice more than once. So I think for me, that's one benefit that the students do get during these home-based lessons. And you can see from the pictures, I mean, this is only 4 submissions that they are
Yeah.
trying their best to put their effort forward.
They look very involved in your lesson as well. And it's so different. Each one of them are very different. So
Yes. And then, so when they submit their work, like Rauda, and I think like most teachers, they would submit personally through
mhm.
any messaging app. So what I do differently is maybe I provide a rubric. So I would mark against a criterion reference rubric. So for instance, I would look at eye contact. Are they like connecting to the audience or the camera instead of just reading the facts? I would talk about their visual aids. What did they use to accompany their presentation, for instance? And then any feedback I would give through voice note, so that I could give differentiated feedback to different students. So for instance, if students are capable of using the language, maybe they use language English at home normally, so they would be
Mhm.
able to talk fluently. However, maybe there might be details in the way they present, like they read from the slides, or they just basically relied on their language skills instead of using um, extra presentation factors that make your uh, show interesting, right? And
Okay.
then for pupils who are weak, maybe I would focus on, say, their pronunciation. So there were students that they had interesting presentations, they had the interesting facts, they dressed up in costumes, but they had pronunciation errors, like saying the word pharaoh or tomb. So um, I think that helps when you give a rubric where you know that students think about each element as a whole when presenting, as opposed to just talking about pronunciation or talking about um, sentence structure and so on. And
Okay.
finally,
Mhm.
it's hard for me not to talk about motivation without talking about extrinsic reward. You know, in class, yeah, in class we give chocolate,
Yeah,
lollipops.
I guess we tend to do this with the primary school kids, right?
Yeah,
Somehow
so
this extrinsic motivation comes in.
I know. I mean, it's like you can't help but want to give to your kids for actually giving their best in every task that they do. So for every fortnight, maybe a month, depending on my mood, depending on the difficulty of the task, and also how much money I have in my bank, we have online learning. So why don't
Uh-huh.
we have online banking? Right?
Yeah,
So
that's nice.
yeah. So what I do is after every task, so for instance, this speaking task, I offered like 5 ringgit to the top 5 presenters. And then the criteria would be based on the rubric that I gave. And
Mhm.
after everyone has submitted their work and I have looked into their work and marked their work, I would choose the top 5 that I thought were most interesting or was best in trying to relay their message and like give the list out in their group, and then they would contact me personally providing their personal banking details. So some of the
Okay.
students are really excited. They're taking pictures of their bank cards, like this is my savings account, thank you for choosing me. And then when I transfer the money, they'll be so excited.
I'm excited hearing this as well. So,
Yeah, so basically those are the things
Mhm.
that make up my lesson, and I hope that by sharing these little things, I hope at least teachers out there get at least one idea from my sharing, because I know there are
True,
so
true.
many great teachers out there and probably
Yeah,
they're doing more than what I did. So I'm very
definitely, I would
humbled by this
agree with you,
experience.
Sarah. Yes, yes. Well, I I have no words already from what you have explained. So it's clearly seen that you are actually very flexible and you actually cater for your students. And in a way, I think those surveys actually were very helpful as
Yeah,
it was very important for you actually to know all your students as well during this situation that we are facing. And not to forget, you were also, how do I say, you gave them the opportunity to be creative rather than actually constraining them, which is
yeah,
something very, very good, I would say, because by doing that, they were able to be creative, and the end product was actually very overwhelming. And I'm sure you would have been surprised with whatever that they have come up with in throughout their lessons as well. So good to have different alternatives as well and work your way through it. So like you had your Google Meet as well as WhatsApp group. So at least we know there was effective teaching and learning taking place, and none of our students were left out. And
yeah.
having
I
a
hope
rubric,
so.
that was also another great idea. And sharing it with the students was also something which is a great thing, because they actually know what your expectations are and they actually can work around with it. So they know you know what to expect from them as well. And they
And
know what
yeah, and they know what
is
to expect.
expected. Correct. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
and the best part is definitely your motivation part. And great idea. Well, something, a different thing for people to motivate their students. So like what you said, online banking. Well, someone might actually start using your ideas. So thanks again, Sarah, on those great ideas. And I can't wait to join your Google Meet class as well, and be part of your online banking.
Thanks, Kiro. Wait for the link.
Yes, yes, yes. So thank you so much, Sarah, again. So moving on, Kyrie, what would you like to share on regarding these challenges faced in the new norm, and how did you come up with an interesting lesson for your students? What do you think, which was actually very interesting in your lesson that caught your students' attention as well?
All right, thank you very much, Kiro, for the question. Actually, before I even begin, I would have to put a disclaimer. My
Mm-hmm.
category is a bit different compared to Miss Rauda and Miss Sarah, whereby mine
Okay.
is part of the HIP-FINCO schools, whereby we are one of the schools that FINCO reached out to us just to help underprivileged and economically disadvantaged children. So this is, I think, one of the reason why they choose our schools. So this is kind of like a little bit a different category. Now, let me give a little background on my school. So I actually have a video here. So, so yeah. Oh no, not this one. This one, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
You actually have a very beautiful view, Kyrie, of your school.
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much. This is my view every morning. So every morning it'll get a little bit foggy. I really look forward to seeing this view every time I go to school. But as you can see, that my school is a bit different. We are located in the mountainous district of Jelebu, in the rural outpost of Jelebu, whereby uh, we are surrounded by villages of Malay villages and indigenous villages. So this is my school, SK Amapulu in Jelebu. We are actually Sekolah Kurang Murid, SKM school, with a majority of Malay students and a minority of indigenous Temuan children. So of course we will have some mixed ability students, whereby a majority of them have low passing rate. So this is where my school is a bit different. It's under a different category compared to low tech lesson and also medium to high tech lesson. Fun fact, actually, my previous school is actually a majority indigenous school. So I am somewhat familiar with the pedagogical reality and disadvantage faced by our indigenous children when it comes to English language. Because to them, for most of my students are from the Temuan indigenous group. So they have their own culture, their own language. So English is actually their third language, and sometimes can be considered as their foreign language actually, because their input are only from me, only from the classroom. So most of them, they don't have any TV. Only some of them. Sometimes they will watch TV from their neighbor's house. So that's why exposure to the language is quite limited. Now, compared to the Malay students lah, because the Malay are learning English as a second language, so it's quite a different linguistic scene. Now, due to the predicament faced by our school, of course, we will rely on a low-tech tool, which is WhatsApp. So WhatsApp became the only medium of communication between us and the parents and some students, because it's the only thing that the parents there got. So we have chat groups for each class and each subject. And what happened was we did the online remote learning in a synchronous mode. So just a heads up, in online remote learning, we have two modes. One is synchronous and one is asynchronous. Synchronous means it's real time, it's live, just like what Miss Sarah did with her students. She is meeting her students live at that time. But asynchronous means it happened at a later time. So I will give the input, the written instruction in the WhatsApp group, and then the students will check them out at a later time, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes at night, sometimes even in the weekends. Yeah, so that is.
So you work around the clock.
Yes, time was actually abstract during MCO last year. So basically, that's what happened. But it's okay. We as teachers, we will try our best to just make sure at least they learn something. And once I have given them written instruction with extra reference materials like flashcards or any screenshots from the textbook or workbook or any videos that I found helpful, so I would go on a private one-on-one chat with each student, because these students, they most probably they don't have the time to check it out in real time, because they all rely on their parents' phone, and usually they will have to wait for their mom and dad to come back from work at night. Then they would be able to check out the work and such. So that's why I had to revert to one-on-one chat after I've given the written instruction. So this is kind of a sample, one of the sample. Actually, I have a lot of sample. This is the nicest one that I can get. So
Okay.
after I've given them the instruction, in this lesson, actually, I was teaching them how to, I was asking them to draw their family members and also use the have got phrase to describe their family members. So this is just a sample of the live one-on-one chat, whereby I also use the annotation tools, the pencil annotation tools from WhatsApp to write some comments and mark the paper, give them a little bit of a personalized feedback. And okay, circling back to your question, actually, there are a few issues that we found during MCO. I think I speak for schools from rural outposts and indigenous classroom. Most of them have limited gadgets, like I said before. Most of them rely on their parents' phones, and then almost all of them share the same phone with their siblings. We have a case where we have 5 schooling siblings sharing one phone from
Yeah.
one mother. So it became quite a issue during MCO last year, because the parent kind of complained that, oh, she has to schedule for everyone to use the phone, and then she also wants to use the phone for work. So it became quite an issue back then. And only a few of them have a personal phone, if I'm not mistaken. Only in my year 5, only 2 or 3 of them have their own phones, but the rest, they rely solely on their parents' phone. And among the disadvantage that I faced, that some didn't reach the indigenous children, because
Okay.
some indigenous parents, they don't have their own phones, and they sometimes they rely on their neighbor's phone for any information and such. So that's one of the limitations that we faced. And of course, our school are surrounded by villages, so of course they will have problems regarding internet connection, and hence we will have some pending responses and participations. That's why I told you that time was abstract during MCO last year, because we have to work around the clock,
Yeah.
wait
Yeah.
for the students to reply back to us and follow up to them. But then this kind of things, yeah, I said the replies at night, and a few days after, sometimes they ghosted, and then I only got their responses like in the weekend. So those are among the reality that we face. And but then I do found some elements that are among that are kind of an advantage for their learning, actually, due
Okay.
to the learning became in asynchronous mode. So it is much more learner pace. Okay, we follow each pupil's their own progress and such. That's why I do the one-on-one chat. So everything becomes much more personalized, because after I gave them the written instruction and extra reference materials, I will follow up with each of them, try to find out their progress and assist them from time to time. So it became very personalized, and I think it made learning less intense for them, and also kind of a safe learning for them, because uh, in a face-to-face classroom, I saw that some of them are pretty shy. They don't want to participate in such. But then when we revert to this method during MCO last year, some of them prevail triumphantly, because I think the element of competition was diminished, where they don't feel like they are competing with their peers. Oh, this person has completed, I haven't completed. No, because when it becomes one-on-one, it becomes only the teacher and the student. So it became much more personalized and much more learner centered.
Learn. Yeah.
Okay, and I also use several elements that I have learned. like the use of exemplars. So I use exemplars as a visual sample on what I expected them to do. Like, like this task, I gave them a sample of a picture of a family member, a drawing of family members with two sentences using the have got phrases. So it kind of give them like a visual direction. Oh, this is what Mr. Kyrie want me to do. So it gave them kind of that kind of guide for them. And also I use the element of success criteria, whereby I provide them just a short list of what I expected them to do. Like for this lesson, I wrote down the first one is you must draw at least two family members, and the third one is you must use the have got phrases to describe your family members, and also you must write at least two sentences about your family members. So this kind of thing really gives them a point by point guide on what they have to do, so that the learning objective is quite clear for them. So yeah, it will also give me quite good guidance in order to follow up with their progress. So I go step by step based on the success criteria. So yeah, that's what happened during
Your
last year.
your lessons as well.
Yes.
So, well, yours was definitely somewhat different actually compared to Rauda's and Sarah's lessons as well, since yours was more asynchronous, like what you mentioned, as learner paced. And what was great about it was very, very personalized actually. And you were able to communicate with your students one to one, which was a great thing, although
Mm.
it is too much, but you actually did it. And you're able to communicate with them, and of course your outcome was very positive, as you could see a difference with among your students as well, that they were actually actively participating, and as what you mentioned, there was no how to say, they were not threatened, they were not in an environment where they felt threatened, and also they did not feel there is a competition, or being competitive as well among their peers. So they took their time to actually digest and learn whatever that was given to them, and they were very comfortable as well with you, because you were already communicating with them one to one. So that was something really, really great coming from you as well, Kyrie. So thank you so much sharing your ideas as well. So moving on, our next question is, what are you actually looking forward to doing after this? And now that you have won the competition, what would be your next step? So, Sarah, would you like to share your view on this?
I knew you were going to choose me.
You're like my first target, Sarah.
All right. So what I want to move towards is focusing on the students more instead of highlighting the teachers' work. What do the teachers do for HIP? So I want to share that last year I submitted my student's name into the I Can School Challenge. This
Okay.
competition focuses on getting students to lead projects based on the FIDS model. So FIDS stands for feel, imagine, do, and share. So what they do is they think of a problem that they find troublesome to them, maybe the community, their peers, and then come up with a solution,
Okay.
as well as sharing that solution with other schools and other people. So as you can see in the picture, these are times when we had school. You can see them presenting to a company. They are actually asking for sponsorship for their project. And then
Wow.
the boy holding the green paper there, he's presenting to classes, like he's conducting the activities that they created.
Nice.
And then during school closures, we also had to come up with solutions to do these kind of things. So they also did live streaming using StreamYard as well. And they were talking about their project, trying to get to a bigger audience. They went on YouTube And I think in less than a month, they were able to get around 600 plus views, which is
Wow.
quite an achievement for kids like this, right?
Mhm.
And one of the opportunities that was given by the program was sorry, I forgot the name. My exchange. My exchange. So what they had was they want students to interview public figures. Like for instance, one of my students, Atira, got the opportunity to interview Tan Sri Dr. Jamilah Mahmud, which is the public health advisor to our Prime Minister of Malaysia. And I feel that once you put the students in the spotlight, they are able to shine, and you can, I mean, you'd be surprised with their capability, what they're able to do. So what I want to do is moving forward is having more student-led activities, and this could be in schools, it could be online. So whatever you do, make sure that the students are put forward. So the first one would be the I Can School Challenge, like I mentioned before. If anyone's interested, they can go to the Design for Change Malaysia Facebook page. I think they're hosting another challenge called the Rainforest Challenge. So all of these activities that you can include your kids in, and it's at international level, which is a very high achievement for our students. The second activity is called We're Special. So this year, Teacher Shida and I, we're kind of like a team. We're working on getting the school to be more compassionate and more empathetic towards pupils who have learning disabilities and pupils of special needs. So what we want to do is feature these special kids because of their disabilities, that doesn't limit them, because there are students, like for instance the student in my class, he is able to talk about anything in English because that's basically his first language. So what we want to do is feature these kids. I mean, don't just get the mainstream kids, get the students from Pendidikan Khas to help as well. Number 3 would be kids review. When you look on YouTube, you look at what your kids are watching. They're watching a lot of reviews, toy reviews. You can watch
Game reviews.
Yes, so you can get the kids to produce their language in their own context. So like they find that this game is very interesting, or they find that this game is hard to play, or you can use it towards a more educational point of view, like reviewing books, for instance, like storybooks that you read at home, storybooks you read during the MCO. And finally, what I want to do is have like a teach your teacher segment where
Wow.
students teach their teachers to do new, fun, cool things. For instance, like teaching us to play Among Us, or teaching us to play PUBG, maybe. And then we would stream that. I mean, it would be so interesting because you can get the kids talking because you know they're going to talk about it.
Because they are very familiar, and they would definitely be
Yeah.
excited to share it with us as well.
Yeah, something that they're passionate about. And I think, again, when you put the kids in the spotlight, that's when you really get them to produce the language, which in turn will help you achieve the objectives of HIP.
Nice. Well, it is definitely a good start for your children at a very young age as well, and it's guiding them, and giving them the exposure and building their self confidence as well with all this involvement. So it's a
Yeah.
journey of self development as well for your students. So good luck with all the programs and competitions that are lined up as well for your students, Sarah. So
Thank you.
hoping to see you, and I'm
Yeah.
sure they would do great in whatever that they are doing actually. So thank you so much, Sarah. So
Thank you.
Kyrie, what is your take on this?
Oh, thank you very much, Kiru. So, based on the predicament that we have faced and that we have recognized last year during the first MCO, let me share my screen first.
Okay.
Okay, so we have devised a few way forward on, especially to circumvent the issue where some indigenous students didn't get the chance when we did online remote learning. due to some limitations. So what we did was we turned it into a blended learning. Actually, we gave them physical books or modules for them to bring home, so they will have their own ready-to-use materials uh, back at home. Because at that time we were a bit afraid that the school were going to close again. So and indeed,
Which they did. Yeah.
yeah, indeed, our prediction was right. So thank God we managed to give them all of this before the school closed again. So at least now they have their own hard copy of work for them to do it at home. But still, they will wait for uh, instruction and feedbacks from WhatsApp. So among the indigenous kids, some of them will refer to their neighbor's phone to look
Mhm.
at the work that has been given. So yeah, we turn it into blended learning. Thank God we fully utilized this during the recent CMCO last year. And then I also did a little experiment with synchronous method of learning, whereby we use Google Meet to just try to learn with them in real time. But this one is not a lesson actually. This one is much more like a extracurricular activity where I invited a few guests from outside. Yeah, I invited guests from FINCO and also PNB Paribas from Kuala Lumpur. So within the span of 5 weeks, each week we will have sorry, one guest to come in on Google Meet and just read them a story and try to interact with them in English, try to get them interested with reading and also with the content that we are providing. So yeah, but even though it didn't reach much, this one is for year five. I've got like 15 pupils, but then only 3 to 4 of them could make it. But even though it didn't reach much, but it definitely gave a positive outlook on for them because what I intend was I just want to take them out of the village actually because their linguistic situation was their English language input was only from Mr. Kairi. Their English
Mhm.
language exposure is only from the four corners of the classroom. So that's why I'm trying to I tried to do this just to take them out of the village and try to see, oh, there are other people who also use English. So most of the guests that we brought in here are women with careers actually. Among them are lawyers and bankers, and I would say that it definitely gave them a positive effect
Girl
because by
power.
the end,
Girl power.
huh?
Yes.
Girl power.
Yes, yeah, but that's true because most of my students are girls who attended this. So by the end of each week, we asked them, "Oh, what's your favorite? Which one is your favorite book?" And they said, "Oh, we love us Samantha, the girl scientist," because they didn't know girls can be scientists, or they didn't know.
Mhm.
They also met those guests like Miss Mawalis, a lawyer from PNB Paribas. They didn't know girls can be lawyers and bankers. So these kind of things are what I aim to give them. I aim to give them lots of this kind of exposure so that they will have a more open outlook towards the language and also their future selves. I have a video of it. Would you like to watch it?
No,
Sure.
definitely. Sure.
Yes. All right. Now, so I'm just gonna skip it. So this is among the recorded session that we did with Miss Mawalis, actually a lawyer, and then she
Mhm.
will read them books on Google Meet. As you can see, most of them they use their parents' phone, so sometimes they have their parents' face over there, and we would interact with them in English, and sometimes I would like interpret for them. So yeah,
Wow.
I'm actually looking forward to do more of this in the future this year, perhaps with our panels, Miss Sarah, Miss Rauda, and Miss Kiro, perhaps. Maybe you
More
guys
girl
can
power.
read to them.
Yes, mogul
Yeah,
powers. Well,
this kind of exposure is what I aim for them.
Correct, correct. Very true. Great effort, actually, going the extra mile and doing extraordinary things actually with your students. So it's definitely a great exposure for your students, and I'm sure they would have learned a lot as well. And good luck with that again, Mr. Khairi. I'm looking forward as well with more collaborations as well among each
Yes,
other and with
please.
schools, because I'm sure we'd benefit a lot out of it now with all the ideas coming out. So thank you so much again. So, last but not least, so Miss Rauda, what would you like to share with us?
I totally agree with Kyrie when he mentioned that English shouldn't be confined within four walls. It is used worldwide. This year for 2021, I have two bucket lists. The first one is to build a reading guide. So if
Okay.
Miss Claire Walker is still listening to this webinar, I would like to invite you to wire in some money into my account. So yeah, to have more resources for the kids to actually learn the language outside of the classroom. Also, to all the viewers and listeners who are still with us, tuning with us right now, you can
Mm.
contact me so we can collaborate and explain the idea. Other
I
than
like your
that,
promoting
one of my
skills.
Yes.
that's what I learned. That's what I learned during this MCO. So,
Mhm.
other than that,
Promoting.
this one, Mr. Arif, one of English teacher from my district, he shared that how would you feel if one day one of your kids bring a Russian homework asking you to help them? So, English is something familiar with us as an English teachers. How about a Russian language, which is a totally, an alien language for us? So I think it's about time for us to educate the parents as well. This I would like to, possibly conduct a workshop with the parents just to educate them with a simple language, like, simple commands that they can use at home. Hence, my students can use the language at home and during my class. So with these two bucket lists, I would like to summarize that it takes a village to raise a child. This was taken from an African proverb, which it says that we need to work hand in hand to provide a like a safe environment for the kids to learn regardless of what circumstances that we are facing, the lesson
Mhm.
needs to be carried out. So by getting help from the parents, I think that could help me in so many ways. Yeah,
Right.
hopefully.
So, well, thank you again, Ms. Rauda. And I would agree again that it takes a village to educate a child. So it cannot come from just one person only. Well, we would
Indeed.
have to work hand in hand to
Yeah.
make things happen and to achieve and to move to a greater level as well. So working together is actually the best thing and the best choice to ensure that the teaching and learning actually takes place effectively for our children. So thanks again, Miss Rauda. Great
Thank
ideas and
you.
tips coming from you. And once again, I'm definitely loving your promoting skills. And I hope everyone who's listening actually, got that and would be reaching out to you as well. So
You can
That's
also
once
fine.
again,
try
thank you.
crowdfunding.
What is it
Sorry,
again?
Oh,
just a suggestion for Rhoda. You can also try crowdfunding. I mean, if you want to know about
Crowdfunding.
that, maybe we can
crowdfunding.
discuss later.
Yeah, we can
Noted.
discuss that later. I want to
Okay,
do
yes,
one.
take that point as well. So,
Thank you,
thank you
Sarah.
very much again for your insightful session. So, online teaching has become a hot trend recently, and I'm sure this session has enlightened us, the teachers, on how we can plan a lesson so that it has the possibility of succeeding both face to face or live online, and both at the same time if necessary. So, I believe this sharing session is going to guide many of us here, sorry, today to plan our teaching and to get our students motivated and make sure the teaching and learning takes place effectively in the new norm. So, now, without any delay, we shall now continue the webinar with our question and answer session. So, are you guys ready for the question and answer section?
Yes, but
Yes.
no hard
Yes,
questions.
not a killing one.
Oh, not a killing one. Okay, I'll see how it goes then. Okay, so well, the first question Let's see. Okay, so the first question is from Miss Iman Rozhan. Okay, so I have a question for any of the winners. What's the biggest blessing in disguise from teaching during the MCO period?
I
All
think,
right.
like
So,
for me, can I share?
yeah, sure.
I think one of the biggest blessings is during home-based learning, I have more time to connect to my students outside school. So like I said before, my school counselors, Cikgu Hasni Rita and Cikgu Samiha, they did a lot of surveys asking about students' best medium for learning, the amount of work given. They also conducted one specifically for the kids, talking about their feelings during school closures. And I find it's very heartbreaking because there are some of the students who are not only struggling with school, but they're struggling with life at home. Like some parents have been cut loose from jobs. Some had to suffer pay cuts because my area, we're actually near the airport. So quite a number of my parents working at the airport. And
Okay.
it's very heartbreaking for me as a teacher. And I hope that during this time we're able to make the extra effort to go beyond and reach out to these kids, help them maybe financially, but most of all providing support.
Right. So
Yes,
I hope
if
that.
I can add to that,
Yep. Sure.
during this MCO, I've gained a deep insight actually on how the kids facing their daily routine, because all this while we only know them from the homework itself. So when we got to know them, how are their routines, what they deal in their daily life, juggling with the homework. It's such, it changed me in so many ways on how I see them putting a lot of effort into completing my work. That's why I truly appreciate everyone's effort to complete the task. Yeah, that's why.
True enough. True enough. I would definitely
Mm-hmm.
agree with you, and I hope that actually answered your question. So, moving on, let's move to the next question. So, our second question is to Mr. Kyrie. So, my
Kyrie.
question is, how do you do the learning based on the scheme of work? Now, how did you deal with the notion that we need to finish teaching the syllabus? So, it's from Mr. Zawabel.
All right.
Okay. So, on to you, Mr. Kyrie.
That is indeed a very good question, quite a
Uh-huh.
tricky one at that. Actually, we as teachers we have to know we are not actually teaching the syllabus is not our Bible actually. Our Bible is actually the DSKP. So from the DSKP, we look at 1.1.1 or 1.1.2, and from there, we try to adapt. As English language teachers, usually we will follow the SOW, all the learning standards and content standard, and from there, you as a teacher, you know your students, you know the situation of your classroom, you know your students' proficiency, their learning pace. So what we must do is that we adapt according to them. That's why I agree with what Miss Rauda said earlier, is that one shoe size doesn't fit all, because what happened in my classroom is different compared to your classroom. What happened in Jalabu might be different than in Nilai, those kind of stuff. So that again, it all depends on how the teachers adapt, how the teachers improvise and circumvent any disadvantage faced when teaching. So yeah, it's not about finishing a syllabus. It's actually about making sure that we have ticked the mark for each learning standard and content standard.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Very well explained and true enough. So I hope that as well answered your question. And let's move on to our third and final question. So this is from Mr. Huzaif Taufik. So can you please share ideas on how to persuade parents to join in activities plan? This is a very good question.
Who's gonna
Rauda,
answer this?
start.
So
Rhoda?
thank you, Mr. Huzaif Taufik. I assume this question meant for me. So, how actually I develop an engagement, or I would say, how do I establish a relationship with their parents? It's such a journey, actually, because it was so tedious. You have to like be responsive, like be actively, be comfortable with them. I'm such a novice teacher. In terms of pedagogy, I can't sure that I don't have that much of pedagogy knowledge.
Mhm.
However, when it comes to humanistic, I believe we are all human. Try to try to understand each other. Try to have more sense of respect. Do just integrate more of humanistic approach, I would say, because yeah, that's what I do actually. I make sure
Mhm.
that they are comfortable to talk with me about
Yes.
the work other than the homework. Be
I think
approachable. Yeah,
building that
the
rapport
key
is
word is
very
be
important.
approachable.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The repo.
Yep.
Yeah, I think just
Perhaps,
be some. I don't know how do
I
how about us?
also want
How,
to
It,
how about
add.
you, Sarah?
Okay, I also want to add. I just watched this. Again, I told you about the Malaysian Youth Exchange that one
Uh
of my
huh.
students was involved in. They actually did one last week, and we had three students interviewing the founder of Design for Change Global,
mhm.
and I found that she shared something for me. It was really moving for me. She said, "Engage the heart. Only then can you
Engage the
engage people."
heart. Yes,
Yeah,
you capture the heart first.
It's
yeah. Like for you
straight
know
to
how
the
you
heart,
say,
right?
yeah, you know how people say a way to a man's heart is through his stomach, right? So
Yeah,
maybe
True.
what I
exactly.
think she's trying to say is we have to touch the hearts of
Right.
our kids, of our parents, and then only then are they feeling like they are welcomed, that they want to participate on their own initiative and not us
Mm.
trying to persuade them.
Correct. I think it comes within them, but like what you said, Rauda, having that rapport is also very important. It's not easy. It's not an easy
Yes,
journey, but
yes, yes.
eventually it will happen. So
It is
perhaps,
something doable.
yes, it
yeah,
is
perhaps
doable
we
and
can
achievable.
Yeah, perhaps we can ask other stakeholders to chip in and try to
Mhm.
help to reach the parents. Like mine, of course, we have some indigenous parents who are not
Mm-hmm.
literate,
Yeah.
who
Mm-hmm.
can barely help with their students. So perhaps we need an external intervention, maybe some help from the admin, meeting the parents, the PTAs, and such. So eventually it all comes to if we all come together to try to make this learning a better experience, I think it would be best for all.
True. Agree. Agree. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the question and answer session. So, thank you again to the panel for answering the questions, and a very big thank you for joining and sharing with us today. So, we hope to see you again for more sharing sessions. Any last words from any of you?
Okay, can I go first?
Yes, Carrie,
Yes,
please.
Kyrie.
Alright. So sorry. Actually, okay. Before that, it is my honor to be placed in the same screen with these two amazing Negeri Sembilan teachers who have done their very best to support their pupils. I learned a lot of things today, actually. I also want to annotate that actually online remote learning is an uncharted territory, as mentioned by Miss Kiru before. So it's something that we didn't learn, we didn't get trained in maktab or in any other training session before. So, but from what I can see from social media and my colleagues, I saw that all teachers across the nation have been trying their best to learn and adapt and try to put anything that they can to try to push through to give the best teaching and learning session for their pupils. And I think that one deserves a standing ovation because I think every teacher who have survived MCO in 2020 are champions because they have met with unprecedented circumstance and they prevail. And that's what I am actually very proud of seeing my colleagues and also everyone just prevailing in providing a better learning experience for their students. And also, thank you, Q, for having me here. I
No
hope
problem.
that all of us can maybe come again and do a reading session with my pupils,
Yeah,
perhaps.
why not? I'm already eager for it.
Yes, yes,
So,
yeah. So
Sarah,
that's
would you like to share or say a few
Okay.
words?
This is my time to thank everyone, all the teachers out there who put their best foot forward in creating content, in sharing YouTube videos, making PowerPoint slides, annotating them, and making worksheets. Everything you do makes a difference to at least one teacher. And also, like for people who aren't as creative like me, never underestimate the power of a share button, because when we share, we will benefit others. And my heart goes out to all the teachers out there who are doing their best so that the kids can have the best.
Sure enough, I would agree with you. So, Miss Rauda, what would you like to say?
I would like to wrap this session with I love proverb, if someone says that a technology can replace a teacher, take it
Mm-hmm.
just with a pinch of salt, because learners still want a spoonful of sugars from a good teacher. So we are already in a hot soup. Let's not get hotter, calm down, support each other. We can't, whatever we did, we got each other's back. Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you, everyone.
Couldn't agree more on that. Well, definitely. And as this COVID 19 is actually causing many challenges for teachers to stay connected, especially with their students, through technology, teachers are actually finding creative ways to be united and engaged during this pandemic. So it is definitely inspiring to see the different approaches they are using to inspire and interact with their students. Teachers are critical in the success of distance learning and are definitely, I believe, are truly making a difference for our kids and, of course, definitely for our country as well. So thank you again to all of you. So this marks the end of our webinar, ladies and gentlemen. Before we end, so please remember to access the following link and fill in your details to earn professional development hours in your SEL KPM. Okay, so I would be sharing the link shortly.
next.
All right. Okay, so this is the link. Fill in your details to earn the professional development hours in your SPL KPM. So I'm going to leave it for a short while. All right, so the second link is actually the survey link. So please do complete the short survey too. We would love to actually know your feedback on this webinar. And finally, please remember that the recording of the entire webinar will be made available on the Melta Negeri Sembilan chapter YouTube channel and Facebook page. So please share this information with your colleagues and friends as well, so more people can benefit from the session. We from Melta Negeri Sembilan chapter would like to thank our wonderful guest speakers today and thank you for joining us. And we hope that you are able to take away a lot of useful information and new ideas with you. For your information, Melta Negeri Sembilan chapter is planning to organize more webinars on other topics related to education. If you have a suggestion or would like to share your experience of our webinar, do drop us a message in the chat or comment section. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe and goodbye. So signing off, myself, Kirubashini Nadarajan from Melta Negeri Sembilan chapter. Take care and bye-bye.